Good evening, River West, Milwaukee, and possibly the globe. Welcome to Compose Yourself with Julie Brandenburg. This is a talk show about local music as well as a radio workshop for songwriters and composers. We are broadcasting from the River West Film and Video Headquarters on Center Street in the heart of beautiful downtown River West. Each week I will have a panel of songwriters, composers, students, and listeners here to share songs and discuss the craft of songwriting and composing. With me today in the studio is our special guest, John Lidke.
Hello.
And on our panel we have Spencer Powers. And how are you guys doing?
Very well. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
Very excited to be here.
I have to read this disclaimer. Welcome to Compose Yourself. My name is Julie Brandenburg, and I'm the producer of this show. The things you will hear over the course of the next 2 hours represents the views of me, Julie Brandenburg, and the people in my studio. All opinions and quotations in no way represent River West Radio and are the sole responsibility of the producer, guests, and callers. River West Radio is not liable for any legal issues arising from the content of this program. You just don't know what's going to go on around here.
You have been warned.
You have definitely been warned. All righty. So how was your Labor Day weekend, you guys?
Pretty good. Pretty event-filled.
Yeah.
On Friday, I went to the Brewer game with some friends. Had a good time outdoors, grilling, and all the good things you would do on a Labor Day weekend. And then Saturday, me and Spencer's band, Shroud of Despondency, played at the Borgord with our friends in Northless. And
yeah.
actually two bands from Minnesota. One was False, a band we had played with before, and another was called Bellow. Another good band, I think 3 females and one guy.
Where are they from, Bellow?
They're from the Twin Cities area as well. And it was a really good show. It was at the Borgord, and great turnout. It was one of those shows that made you feel good to be in the local scene because it was very supportive and a lot of cool people out there, and all the bands were great, sounded awesome. And
Yeah, we've been talking about how the Borgward shows are always awesome because the center, the focus, and the purpose of being there is to listen to music, not to play pool or drink beer or to watch sports on TV. It's to watch a band.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
that's all you should need. You
Yeah.
know? Interaction with other people and being able to view some live music.
Yeah, I just always get a good vibe. I mean, when I go there, it's like people are all just really cool, and, you know, everybody's like, oh, you're short, I'll move over so you can see, you know?
Yep.
I think everyone
Yeah.
respects the place a lot because it's really the real definitive DIY venue we have in Milwaukee. You know, there's always a constant rotation of basements, mostly here in River West that host shows, and, you know, that's great. You should do that if your neighborhood allows. But the
Absolutely.
Borgward is in a great location where there's not really any neighbors, so to speak, around that can really oppose or, you know, have problems with. So it's a great place to have DIY shows. It's a great place for any show that couldn't happen anywhere else. It can happen there.
Absolutely.
You know, they
Yeah.
just had Noise Fest there about 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah. Every time something cool's going on over there, we're out of town. The Freddie Lee Band, we spent Labor Day weekend in Ohio. Wee-hoo!
how did Ohio treat you?
Dying.
Well, let me tell you, we go there for a festival, an outdoor festival that's just always just a blast to play. The people are so kind and wonderful and dear and just treat us with such hospitality. So it was totally worth it. We played the first 2 nights in a club where it was just amazing. The club had 2 sections of equal size, and they directed people to come in the door on the band side, and then the other side was the DJ side. And guess where everybody went?
I don't want to say DJ, but
Yeah,
DJ.
on the DJ side. So people would walk in, see that there's a live band playing, see with their eyes that there's a live human beings with pulses and heartbeats playing live music.
Authentically fingers on strings of guitars and everything.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, opening mouths and having voice, vocalizations come out, specially made made special just for them to hear.
Yeah.
And they went to the DJ side and listened to, Big Bottoms and what other Big Booties or whatever song. Big Bottoms is, I think, Queen, isn't it?
Big Bottom Girls.
Big Bottom Girls, yeah. That I could at least understand. But
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Fat
Fat
Bottom
Bottom.
Girls.
And I think Freddie Mercury would have just turned 65, if not today, sometime this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool
Little side
piece of
fact.
trivia. Yeah. So what happened is, well, let's just put it this way. We got paid.
That's the important part.
We got paid.
As long as you had a
well.
good time and you got
There
paid
you go,
well.
girl.
Well, we got to thank Mike LaPlante for that. But we did get paid, and it paid for our trip and more. And so then we were able to have a really good time at the festival and just say, hey, it was worth it. So,
Great.
But we did miss the Borg Word show, so yeah.
There'll be more.
There'll be more, and I'm sure we'll let the listeners know when in fact there are more. So let's do some listening. Anything else anybody want to add about the weekend? If not, we'll move on to some listening.
Other than that, it was good weather all weekend, and everyone seemed to be in good spirits. So, hey, here's another good Labor Day weekend.
Awesome. Yep. And you know what? I love autumn. People get very verklempt about summer going away. I get verklempt about autumn going away. I really like autumn. It's just so fresh and crisp.
October specifically has always been one of my favorite months.
Oh, yeah.
It just feels like everything, the elements are all kind of accumulated together. People seem to really be kind of, I don't know if it's because of the whole Halloween element, but there always seems to be some kind of electricity in the air, at least in my opinion. Not kind of a summer vibe where everyone's just going out every night and doing something, but you know.
I know what you mean. It's like people are a little more active because it's not so hot, and the colors are changing, which always looks so festive. So definitely.
Everybody loves flannel weather. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Oh, and guess what? You know, today is a very special day for our engineer, and he's walking in the store right now. So when Nick walks in the store, I can't sing Happy Birthday because that's a copyrighted song, but Happy Birthday, Nick!
Happy birthday!
Yay! Nick tirelessly works for us in the background, doing producing and doing the production, the technical production, and computer stuff, and is not thanked often, so we do appreciate him.
And they're on call 24 hours a day doing diligent work.
Yes, they are. So I'm going to play a little cut by some friends of mine, and I haven't listened to this album in a while, and I fished it out again, and I was like, wow, I remember I really liked this album. It's called, it's by Testarossa, and it's self-titled, so it's also called Testarossa. But this is a cut that's called Books About Clouds. Books About Clouds. Books About Clouds on riverwestradio.com by Testarossa. And in this band is Betty Blexrud Striggins, her husband Damian Striggins, who plays the bass and the drums and guitar. Holy cow. And Paul Hancock, who also plays bass, guitar, and piano. Betty wrote that song. She does guitar and vocals as well as sing, and keyboards as well as sing. She wrote that song, and she's a wonderful person. She's a really lovely artist and songwriter, and maybe some point we should get them on the show.
Yeah, they still playing around these days?
Yes, they are. They don't play often. They're not real prolific, but it seems like every time they are doing something, it's in Bayview and I can't get there, or I'm playing, it's the same old song, I'm playing somewhere else. So I have not seen them in a while. The last time I saw them, they were just as charming live as the recording we just heard. They had another woman singing background vocals. This is quite a while ago, and she was also very good. But just a really charming sound. It's real mellow, and it's very sincere. It's not contrived. It's very poppy, which is not normally, my thing, but the way they do it, it's just so laid back.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say it for any genre of music. I can get into it if I like the way the artist represents that genre.
Yeah.
Pop is not a bad word. It's just something that usually is used to describe what the masses listen to, and but there is good pop.
Pop is just an acronym for pretty overplayed, isn't it?
Well, now it is. If it wasn't
one.
before, it is now.
I hadn't
officially.
heard that one. Yeah, very beautiful. There was a little piano riff down that was in there that I just find, it's always those tiny little details in music like this that just kind of hooks your ear, and you're like, ah, and you're just like so happy to hear it. It's like having a couple of M&Ms and then you don't have some for 10 minutes, and then you're like, wait, I want more M&Ms. Da, 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 and there they are.
Or you go through the whole bag and you're like, oh, I should have saved some, and then you notice there was like one or two in the bottom. You're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's peanut M&Ms, ooh boy.
Yeah, I like those
Double
too.
reward.
Definitely. So that's Testarossa, and at some point I'm hoping that maybe I can get these folks on the show. I've known them for quite a long time. And the phone is ringing. Is the phone ringing?
Sounds like it.
We have never attempted to answer the phone, so we're going to do that right now.
Thanks for calling Compose Yourself with Julie Brandenburg. How may I help you? How was my phone voice?
First time ever.
Your phone voice was fantastic.
Hello?
Something tells me there was something we were supposed to push. Oh, wait, there's a box. If whoever called, if you want to call back, call back. We screwed it up.
Oops.
We're not used to having call-ins, so if you call back, we'll follow these instructions. That was exciting, though.
Yeah.
That was really exciting.
My heart is racing.
Either it was someone trying to help us or it was a telemarketer. In which case, we don't want any. Don't call us back. Take us off your lists.
Please, no solicitations.
Exactly.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Okay,
Yeah.
next time I'm supposed to press the white button before Spencer answers. Okay, we got that now. All right. So, moving right along, I'm going to play a longer cut today because I hate to try to shorten jazz. We did shorten one of the jazz selections we played a couple of months ago, and I didn't feel right about it because there's a certain contour to the piece, and if you cut something out, it's really, you've missed the bass solo, or you've missed something that really needs to be there. So it's a longer. So in lieu of playing more pieces, more songs, I am playing less songs, but this one is a longer selection, and I think it's worth it. Absolutely. Because it is hot off the press music. Brand new, just, I know, it's very exciting. It's hardly been played or heard by anyone, so it's very exciting. It's music from Jamie Brevik, and the song we're going to listen to is called Nutty. I liked it right from the start. study, riverwestradio.com. That's the Jamie Breivik group. And in that group is Mark Davis, Jeff Heyman, Romarcus Jones, and this was live from the Jazz Estate. So that kind of explains why the recording wasn't exactly balanced. It would have been nice to hear the bass just a little, but you could hear it, but it was a live recording.
Yeah.
It's always nice to hear the bass a little more.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the Jazz Estate's a small enough club where you can get a good live recording out of it, but, I guess nothing really beats being there and hearing it, but...
I like live recordings because sometimes you just get a flavor for, even though if you hadn't told me this is live, I would get a flavor for it being live. It just has that feel.
It has that swing.
Yeah.
That you can't replicate when one person's laying out a drum track and then a bass part, and it's something about the sound when they're all playing together that you can't duplicate that.
Yeah. And it's just kind of the way they play off each other, too, in jazz, which is so different than the kind of composed music that we're always doing. It's just the tune is composed and the rest of it is an interaction.
Sliding in between each other's parts and stuff like that. I really like I love the intricacy of jazz drums all the time. He was really feathering that kit.
What does that mean?
Just imagine like tickling someone with a feather, just the lightest stroke, but it is very effective and stuff like that. Like all the little like kind of ghost notes he was doing on the snare, the little you hear just like not like he was hitting it, but like just kind of dragging the stick across, and it just gets the little,
Yeah.
And, yeah. I just like it because everything is so deliberate with what they do with the jazz drumming. So I like it when thought goes into music. Yeah.
A lot of times it's really fascinating to me is how really good jazz drummers can imply the meter, imply the beat, and be somewhere else for a little bit, but you as a listener never feel like they've lost a grip of it.
Yeah, transcending the pocket.
Yeah.
I love all these terms that we're throwing around here. This is very educational radio time.
That one was like half musical and half Eastern philosophy right there.
There you go.
We're kind of geeky around here.
Well, good. I feel like I'm with my own kind then.
No,
Yes.
yeah, it works,
All
yeah.
Musicians and nerds?
Yes.
Imagine that.
I transcend the pocket with a feather.
Yeah.
Uber nerd.
What you know about?
Yeah. I was showing the parts of the Ken Burns jazz film to some of my music appreciation classes this summer. And there's a segment that I always try to show students where Wynton Marsalis is talking about jazz improvisation, and he says that basically, it's ironic because he says, dudes can go in a club in Milwaukee. He actually said Milwaukee. I'm like, wow. And he said, and then, the three people will be saying, okay, what do you want to play? And then he says, blah, blah, blah. And he says, and then the three of them sit down and they have to negotiate with each other the whole time. It's a big negotiation. It's like, all right, I'm going to lay back, so you're going to get more busy, or you're going to be busy, so I'll lay back. And and then the other thing about jamming in general, whether it be jazz or rock jamming, is sometimes people forget that having everything the same dynamic the entire duration of the jam, everything the same texture, in other words, everybody playing with the same amount of notes all the whole time, it gets dull. You can jam on two chords, but within those two chords, many other things have to happen, or it becomes really dull. And with jazz, they're dealing with one basic melody and a couple of chords. And yet, to keep it interesting the whole time, they're constantly inventing and negotiating these new ways to work with the material that's given to them in the song.
Yeah, to a great degree. I mean, that's really making the most out of the form of that music. Like you said, a lot of bands can sit there and jam on two chords for hours. I mean, there's, I don't want to rag on any genres of music, but there's plenty of bands I've heard in the more jam band genre that's kind of based off that. They're really kind of meant to let things lay out on a simple or even just kind of moderate progression. And really try to jam. The bands that are good at it can really make the most out of that. They can make a 20-minute jam sound good, make you like, oh, it's over already, as opposed
Absolutely.
to a band that just takes, like I said, a couple chords and no one's stepping back, everyone's in the front. I mean, nobody wants to hear that.
Back in the day, Jimi Hendrix's power trios could play 20 minutes on a one-chord jam.
Right.
I think you're absolutely right, John. I think the key to that is everybody's got to be listening. I've been in situations where I've been in a jam and I would start to try to kind of like back off a little bit and maybe try to, hey, look what I'm doing. Hey, maybe we could back off for a little bit. And people weren't picking up on it, so it didn't have any effect. And then I've been in other situations where somebody would initiate something different, and everybody'd see where that person is going with that. It's like, oh, he's doing like halftime rhythm now, or oh, she's playing really quiet now, and oh, we're doing this in another key now, or something,
Yeah. It's like understanding those unspoken rules of not stepping on people's toes musically, or as you say in the case of what Marcellus said, they'll actually get together and be like, okay, you're going to lay back and I'm going to be in the front, or, as long as either there's the intelligence to be able to go with it as it's going, or beforehand being able to, agree on something. That's kind of some of the more key elements to making simple things like that really turn into big pieces of music.
Absolutely. Getting back to the specifics of jazz, I'm always just really in awe of jazz pianists because they need to be both rhythm and melody, and as does the bass. And it's just knowing exactly how to phrase the chording so that it's repetitive enough that you're still holding down the pocket and that you're still holding down the chord structure for the person who's improvising, but that you're not just going dum 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 dum. It's like they seem to have such a fabulous sense of space and when to syncopate. Not playing for a beat or two and then coming right back in, and it's cool.
Yeah, the syncopation really adds like the feel of like really good funk to me. The bipping and the bopping. Do-do-do-do-do.
They do this thing where they'll have one hand playing chords and like switching inversions of the same chord, and the other hand just riffing on a scale. And in jazz music, it just changes the leading tone so much by having the bass note be different and the mode be different with the other hand.
Yeah, the independence between the two hands always has really struck me about jazz piano and classical piano.
Well, the independence of the two hands is always what got to me about jazz drumming too, though.
True, this is true.
The independence of the two hands for jazz playing is probably why I don't play jazz, because I never had the patience to practice it. I can functionally read a chart. As I tell my voice students, I am not a jazz pianist. I am a cocktail pianist. There is a big difference. A cocktail pianist can play the chords and they sound nice so that someone else can shine above them, as in singing or playing an instrument. But a jazz pianist is doing so much more. So it's like I really appreciate what they're doing, and I don't know if I would have the time or the abilities to practice to that degree. I just admire it a lot.
I've always had a lot of respect for piano players because, like you were saying earlier, there's so much they can do to fill in the sound and like carry the band. Most instruments, you are doing one thing with one hand and one thing with another hand. Even with drums, you're typically doing cymbals with one hand or, skins with another hand. In piano, it's your hands are always on the keys. And like you said, you could do things like making chords or keeping the bass tones, and then you can do melodies on top. I mean, yes, always respected a good piano player.
And then throw in the fact that you need to use some pedals with your feet from time to time, too. It's a lot of independence.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was kind of being humble about my inability to play jazz, but when I do write my own music, my own songs, I am trying to work with that independence of hands, where my left hand is usually playing chords and some deeper, lower sounds, especially if I'm not going to be accompanied by anyone but myself. And then my right hand, I'm often trying to come up with sort of a riff, so that I have bass and guitar going, right hand, and then I am singing over that, so that I can do. And that fills out this that I can do. That fills out the sound and allows for me to be able to play solo without it being too ka-ching, 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 which can be, sometimes the singer-songwriter thing it bums me out because it's just really, I feel like I'm missing something. There needs to be a riff or a melody or something besides just what's being sung. So,
well, still, I mean, to pull off all those things, like I said, keep playing chords, doing the melodies, using your feet, singing. I mean, that's a lot of things to do at once. That's a lot harder than, patting your head and rubbing your belly.
I mean, well, and something, a lot of my students ask me to give them tips on how to do it. And the fact is you just have to practice each thing separately and then have to learn how to put it together without having to think too hard. I just simply make them independent entities. My hands know how to do this, so then my voice can float over the top of that and not have to think about what my hands are doing. And after a while, it's just become second nature to you. There's no secret. I don't have the secret for that.
Repetitive motion turns into brainless muscle memory.
Pretty much, yeah.
Practice, practice, practice. That's basically what you're
I think I heard
employing here.
Someone say the other day that you master an instrument after playing it for 100,000 hours or something, or maybe it was only 10,000 hours. And it's like, I don't know. I was talking about multi-instrumentalists with someone. Was it you?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, but it was like, oh yeah, they play guitar and bass and drums, and oh yeah, they play keys in this other band, and oh yeah, they did this that one time, and blah blah blah, and then it's like, oh, geez, they must do nothing but practice all day. They didn't even put in their 10,000 hours on the drums yet, and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like,
wow, yeah.
When I was taking a bunch of language classes a number of years ago, they were always saying that in pretty much every language class, they said you have to hear a word in a different language 50 times before you actually memorize it.
Yeah.
So, if that applies to trying to learn the language of music, there's a lot to learn 50 times over.
See.
Actually, that is a really interesting point that you just made because it ties into something I was telling my students in the piano class, the beginning piano class, which John is a former graduate of my piano class, a former student.
I was very honored to be in a class with you. You definitely took me to where I am now. I wouldn't even have the inclination to try and play keys live if I didn't take those 2 piano classes. So
I'm touched. Well, we made you, so.
And I give back by coming on your show.
That's right. That's right.
And singing your praises. So.
Well, thank you. But one of the things that we talked about, and I think I might have even mentioned that with you guys about note reading. So, Jacob, you're right on with this. It's like note reading is the same kind of procedure. So when you first learn the word casa in Spanish, you have to keep saying to yourself, casa means house. Okay, it's a house. But eventually, you no longer, when you hear the word casa, you don't need to say the word house in your head. You just picture the house. You picture the concept. You have the concept now attached to the word. Then you've memorized it. And then you've really made that connection. It's kind of the same thing with note reading. I explain to the students, at first, you need to be going, okay, I'm playing a C with my thumb. It's middle C. It's the first, it's the line right below the staff. Now I'm playing E. That's skipping over 1. It's the first line on the staff. Now I'm going down 1. I'm playing D. All these things need to be happening when you're first learning. You have to tell yourself these things. And eventually, that has to, and it can, and it does go away. And then suddenly you see these shapes on the page, and your fingers know without having to translate what to do. And it's just, of course, there's always the students who want to have that secret magic formula. And I'm like, you know what? If I had that answer, I would not be here. I would be living on Lake Drive somewhere in Chicago and or New York, and I'd be very, very wealthy. I don't have any secrets. I think, as you said just a minute ago, practice. That's it. There is nothing else. One more thing about practicing, since we're on the subject. There's a study that was done by the Medical College of Wisconsin, and I think it was duplicated and done elsewhere, but they discovered that people, especially athletes, who practice in their mind doing a task actually do better than those that only practice doing the task live. So in other words, if you're a musician and you're stuck in a situation, in a repetitive job, for example, where you can just let your mind wander, try mental practicing, or if you're waiting in line for the grocery store, whatever, try mental practicing. Apparently it really does have an effect.
Yeah, I used to do that when I first started playing, and actually I was kind of thinking about that the other day, that I kind of am upset with myself that I don't really think about my craft that much outside of actually doing it. It's like, so busy all the time, doing everything all the time, and I used to really, like, just driving down the street, like, we can all drive pretty well, don't need to be thinking about too much, so I would be, like, working out drum parts and drum fills in my head and stuff like that, and easier to do later if you figured it out already.
Yeah.
A good tip I actually learned from our good friend, Mr. Steve Peplin, when I was taking some of his classes, was that whatever you are practicing, if you go over it in your head right before you go to sleep, your mind will still work on that once you're actually asleep.
Wow.
That's cool.
Which was really good for helping, like, spell your scales, spell chords, things like that. I would sit over my head and go through the cycle of force, forwards and backwards, and I would do it right before I went to sleep, and the next day they would be just a little bit more
solid.
Yeah, in the front of my brain, ready to come out. So anyone out there who's looking for little tips like that, I would definitely recommend that. It seemed to help me, so.
Yeah.
It's like in Dexter's Laboratory when he tried to learn French, and all he learned was omelette au fromage. Cheese omelet.
Stupid Didi.
Well, it gets to that time in our show where we have our favorite little segment called Shameless, 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 Self Promotions. And today's shameless self-promotion will be promoting the Freddie Lee Band once again. Emily is usually here. She is not able to come tonight, but she's the guitar player, and Jacob has now joined us, and he's the bass player, and I now play keys, and I sing. And we have a show on Friday at the Why Not 3 on Kenilworth, and we do not have a musical guest. So what we want to do is to invite all of our friends to bring their guitars and basses and join us for a jam, speaking of jams. So
Very cool.
If our listeners are hearing this and they want to be part of the jam, definitely we need to get people out. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. So that is this Friday at the Why Not 3. And the song I am going to play from the Freddie Lee Band's album, Here's Your Hat, Man.
Great title, by the way.
Do you know what the reason for that is?
I was explaining the story before, and to go along with the cover of the album, it even makes it a better reason to title that. Yeah,
they got into, for our listeners who don't know, they got into a van accident on the road, and the van was tipped over, and everybody was, Freddie and his friend were okay because they were wearing seat belts. They were hanging in their seat belts, and dude goes, "Here's your hat, man," and handed him his hat. So it has a very, very serious meaning for Fred. So tell me what you feel.
Remember when we fell in love? I thought it'd be for good. And if you don't
Freddie Lee Band on riverwestradio.com. That's Tell Me What You Feel. And I'll tell you the little story about the background vocals that I did in there. I showed up for practice, and Fred, when he gets excited, he's just like all over the place. Okay, all right, I'm all set up. Okay, just put these headphones on, okay? All right, and I'm gonna play this song for you, and I want you to just improvise. I'm like, okay. No, really, I'm gonna record. Well, what do you want me to say? Just make stuff up. I'd never heard the song.
Didn't know what key it was in.
Didn't know what key it was in. Didn't let me listen to it ahead of time. He wanted me to do something completely off the top of my head. So.
And that was the result?
That was it.
I would have never known if you wouldn't have said that because they sound great.
Thanks.
I have an interesting story about that song, too. The first day that I met Freddie Lee, I had asked him about his music, and he said he got this idea in his head. Oh, wait, hold on, one sec. He goes and puts a CD on in his CD player, and it starts playing that little riff, that and I'm listening to it like, wow, all right, this is kind of complicated. And he plays through the whole song, and he goes, "Can you play that?" And I was like, I have no idea. And so I actually came back 2 days later and didn't do a very good job, but I played it basically, and then I've been playing with him since then. But
Yeah.
that song we actually had to record it on the album was a whole different story. Playing it well was way different than playing it.
There you go.
Well, from the beginning to the finished product, I'd say, get some good stories to go along with it.
Yeah.
And
I think what you call that is trial by fire, what you guys both experienced.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was trial by fire. And in all fairness, I think TJ, the guy who mixed it down, probably weeded out any of the bad notes that we possibly presented for this recording. So I'm sure there were some. So that was probably edited somewhat, I would imagine.
Well, at any rate, just to say real quick, anyone listening out there, too, if you've never heard their album, I really suggest you go get it. It's a great album. Great local band. The ensemble is very well put together. Lots of very good musicians. Freddie is, in my opinion, a great composer. And if you've never seen them live, hey, go out this Friday because they really know how to rock it.
Unless you're in the
Thank
UP,
you.
and then go see Shroud.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
if you're towards the Upper Peninsula, come see us. If you're closer to Milwaukee,
Go see us.
we'll share the fan base.
All right. Well, I think it's about that time in our show that we're going to have a little fun with our quiz. Yay. Just can't do it without Spencer's kazoo. It's not the same.
Sound effects is everything.
It is. It is. We got to come up with a better name for this segment because right now it's just quiz. It's kind of like dog.
Hold on.
Or
How about
cat.
the quiz?
Ooh, the quiz.
Was that an upward affliction on that kazoo?
Wow.
Kind of like when you're trying to hold a fart in.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
But then no success, and then it's like. That reminds me of the two songs I used to only know two songs on the guitar, and I would play the lowest string and fret the lowest fret and then slide up, and it would be like, see, that was Rocket Ship Takes Off, and then boom, Rocket Ship Lands. Two full-length songs.
That right there, that's what chromaticism is.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you, Jacob. I was afraid that this talk was beginning to undermine the intellectualism of the show, and you managed to pull it out of the
Brought us
water.
right back in.
Pull it out of the toilet bowl and get it back,
It's good. It's good.
So, here's our quiz questions for today, and they're all classic rock related, since I think all of us have at some point in our lives continue to listen to classic rock. So, of Pink Floyd's 4 most popular albums, which one came out first? Animals, Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, or Wish You Were Here?
So do we just, because I'm unfamiliar with the rules, we just chime in whenever we feel it? We all go around,
can
kind
go
of give our
first.
answer?
We
and
usually just go around in a circle, but
Yeah.
We nod at each other
We'll
when
start
we're
with
gonna
you.
talk.
Let's work our way around.
either way, yeah.
All right, Jacob, you're on.
As I recall correctly, I think Dark Side of the Moon came out before any of those other three did. I'm going to go with that one.
I'm going to second that motion. and say the answer is B, Dark Side of the Moon. Spence?
I'm gonna further that motion, and yeah, like my thing is, if I like a band and I like albums, I'll know what year they came out. I can definitively say Animals was 77, Dark Side was 73, The Wall was 79, and Wish You Were Here was 75.
Nicely done.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't have given the years
Wow.
exactly, but I would have gotten the chronology right as opposed to which was first.
Now, I am really, really impressed because now they say The Wall came out in 79. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay, then you are spot on with all of your answers there, Spencer. That's pretty impressive. I do remember, because I am old enough, when this came out, I was very, 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 very young. But I remember I had an older cousin. My cousins were all like at least substantially older than me. They were like 7 to 15 years older than me. Oh, wow. So when I'd go over to their house, we'd go and hang out. The younger folks would hang out, and I'd get to listen to big kids' music. And so I got to listen to Dark Side of the Moon in quad. In quad.
Yeah.
My little like 8-year-old brain was, going nuts at this. I was extremely impressed. I also, by the way, got to listen to Frankenstein in quad.
Edgar Winter Group?
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
That was really, really cool. What happened to quad? It was really awesome. I mean, now we have surround sound, but for some reason, I just have to tell you, it was not the same.
Well, part of it is the difference between listening to music on vinyl versus MP3, too. It's just got a little more of an authentic sound to it.
I just remember this cousin of mine, his albums just sounded sweet. And I think he was the reason that I got into better music right from the get-go. Because I heard Dark Side of the Moon, I'm like, oh yeah, this is where I'm going. I listened to Rush, and then King Crimson showed up in my life, and it was all over.
Oh boy.
You had some cool relatives there.
Yes, I did.
You had some good stuff.
Good stuff.
Very
All
much
right,
so.
Spencer, that was right on the money there. All right, our next question. When Jimi Hendrix moved to England, which guitarist took him in and watched as he became famous within a week? Eric Clapton, Paul McCartney, Jimmy Page, or Peter Frampton? Jacob's thinking. Let's let Spencer go first.
Yeah.
Every time I see Peter Frampton's name, I just want to like belt up, do you feel like I do? But I usually don't, but I did just now. But anyways, when Hendrix moved to England, well, Paul McCartney plays bass and piano, so I'm going to rule him out. And
He did play guitar in Wings.
this is
a little
true.
bit.
Paul, you were always
And
my
but
favorite
We won't
member.
acknowledge that.
He also played the guitar solo in Taxman.
Ah.
I didn't know that.
and,
I
and
did
some
not either.
drums here and there in Beatles stuff, yeah. But yeah, so I'm still not gonna go with Paul, but Jimmy Page, I know, I read an interview when I was in my heyday of loving Led Zeppelin more than anything, that Jimmy Page never met or was able to see Hendrix, so I won't go with Jimmy. And I just don't trust Peter Frampton on this one for some reason. He just kind of flaking on me, so I'm going to go with A, Eric Clapton.
All right.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question. And considering all the Jimi Hendrix knowledge I do know, for some reason I remember this story, but I cannot remember exactly who it was. And I want to kind of go in a weird backwards process of elimination. Paul McCartney, I do not think was the one to put him up for a week. Although I'm sure if they would have met, maybe he would have and get him some tea and crumpets. Jimmy Page, I'm just gonna kind of go off Spencer's knowledge of that because I also recall him saying something to the degree that he never saw Hendrix. I want to say Eric Clapton, but from what I remember hearing, Clapton was more of a admirer from afar at first. I remember hearing stories of him and Jeff Beck going to see Jimi Hendrix and be like, wow, who's this guy? What's he doing? So even though it sounds weird, I'm going to go with D, Peter Frampton.
Okay. All right.
Might have been a time where he was, around and I guess it just from process of elimination, I have to go with Frampton, even though my knee-jerk reaction wouldn't have been him at all. But I'm going to say that because it's the answer I don't think is right. So I got to go against my instincts here.
You know, when I read the question at first, I was sure I knew the answer, but listening to you guys go over Hendrix' knowledge, now I totally have no idea. I'm going to just kind of... I think I remember something about Hendrix staying with one of the Beatles, though, so I'm going to go with Paul McCartney on this one.
Alrighty. Well, once again, you said Eric Clapton, right? Once again, Spencer.
I know Hendrix went, like, he left the East Village of New York in, like, mid-'66 with the intention of finding Eric Clapton and stealing all of his tricks and fame and stuff like that. He was dead set on finding Clapton. In fact, I've read YouTube arguments over this same kind of stuff where, like, Hendrix wanted to meet Clapton, get some of his famousness rubbed off on him and all that good stuff, and he also wanted to see Jeff Beck because he really appreciated Beck and everything that he could do. And then Jimmy Page was kind of left out of the mix, and all the Zeppelin fans were all upset, and you know how people can get arguing on YouTube. It gets pretty petty pretty quick, but...
Almost as bad as Facebook.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You were on the money with your answer again, Spencer. You have to go last from now on because you're getting them all right. All right, the next question is, which of these individuals was not a member of the Traveling Wilburys? Was it Bob Dylan, Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, or Eric Clapton? All right, you got to go first this time.
I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna admit this right now. When I was looking ahead at these questions, this answer influenced my last answer because I knew the answer to this one, and I figured it can't be the same guy twice because that would just be silly, or would it? I'm definitely going with D, being raised on the Beatles and remembering Traveling Wilburys when they were a functioning band. I can safely say that Mr. Clapton was not a part of that group. Although, if it was him instead of the guy from ELO, it might have been, not to rip on him.
I was going to say, what is that guy's name?
Jeff Lynne, no.
That sounds...
Turner? Jeff Lynne Turner, perhaps?
Yeah.
No.
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with D anyways, Eric Clapton.
All right, that's your answer?
That's my answer.
Jacob?
Yeah, that was actually my inclination too. I think I distinctly remember the sounds of Dylan Orbison and Petty in there, and I don't have any recollection of Eric Clapton.
All right.
I'm going to go with Eric Clapton as well, because I kind of know that.
All right, then. That was kind of an easy one.
You know, John, I would actually keep the dude from ELO because ELO rocks my world, and I'll trade Tom Petty in for Eric Clapton. Can
Absolutely
we do that?
not.
No?
No.
Oh, man.
Tom Petty, or as me and my friends like to call him, Tom Party,
Snap.
is a great musician, maybe underappreciated to some, but
To me.
I really like Tom Petty. Live, he is great. He is one of those musicians you can take his songs and just fold them out.
Yeah, but
And
Eric Clapton, come on.
Sure, but I'm not going to give up Tom Petty for Eric Clapton.
Can we just agree we'll trade
Okay,
in Orbison for Clapton?
This is not Facebook
No,
or YouTube.
because Roy Orbison's
We
pretty
are
good,
not
too.
on YouTube. Moving right along.
They were good as they were, so let's just keep it at that.
We have one more question. This is a good one. Which Beatles song was never a #1 hit? Ticket to Ride, Hello, Goodbye, I Am the Walrus, and Lady Madonna. Jacob, you go first.
Okay, I am almost positive I remember Lady Madonna being a #1 hit. I also feel the same way about I Am the Walrus being a #1 hit. As for the other two, though, it's kind of up in the air. I'm going to guess that Hello, Goodbye was never a #1 hit.
All right. John?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I would also say that Ticket to Ride, Lady Madonna were definitely #1 hits. Magical Mystery Tour was, as most people might remember, kind of one of their least successful albums. It was not very well received by critics and maybe to a lesser degree fans. Hello Goodbye was a big hit, although was it #1? Good question. I'm just going to say I Am the Walrus because I don't feel that ever reached #1, although any Beatles song obviously had the potential to be a #1. I'm going to go with C.
All right.
And if I'm wrong, Mom and Carrie, my sister, I'm sorry.
As a big
that's right,
Beatles
man.
fan?
I would, yes. And I would wonder if they would know the answer, too.
I have to apologize to my entire immediate family if I'm wrong on this one too. So
All right.
Yeah, I love the Beatles. They're like the best rock band that there has ever been. Ticket to Ride, I think, was a number one, and Lady Madonna, I'm pretty sure was, because it was released as a single, wasn't on any album. I don't know about Hello Goodbye or I Am the Walrus. I kind of want to go with John that I'm the Walrus didn't make it to number one, but it was a huge song regardless of how popular the album was, and that kind of blows because Magical Mystery Tour is one of my favorite Beatles albums.
yeah,
It's
mine-
not bad.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah,
not
like-
bad. It's fun.
But yeah, so I'm gonna go with B, Hello Goodbye, as my answer. That was never a number one hit.
Ah, Spencer finally gets one wrong. So that means that, John, you are correct. So you don't have to apologize to your family. Jacob, you'll never hear the end of it.
Mom, I am your real child. You know.
I'm so glad to bring people together like this.
There you go.
So, moving right along, we would like to spend more time talking about your music now, John.
That would be great.
And what I'm really excited about is that you brought in a huge selection of things for us to listen to, because I know you do all different kinds of genres. Now, we played Shroud of Despondency on the show a number of times, and we're definitely willing to do that, but I'd kind of like to open with something completely different. Would you like to share something with
Yeah,
us?
unfortunately, I only had CDs to bring, but it
Sure.
seems like we have it set up where we can probably get away with this.
Yes, we can. I'll tell you what, why don't we start with Shroud, and that will give you time to set up the CD player.
That sounds great because we'll go to what's current and then we'll jump backwards and
That does sound good.
This will be fun.
So you pick. What do you want to play off the CD?
We've played New Trees and Overshadow before.
And
played-
half open gates too.
okay. Well, that's an easy one. Then why don't we go for Nameless End?
Nameless End. You got it. So we're going to listen to Shroud of Despondency on RiverWestRadio.com. This is Nameless End. Ascend by Shroud of Despondency here on riverwestradio.com. And we have John Litke right here in the studio in the heart of beautiful Center Street at the Film and Video Store. He's going to tell us all about his music.
Great. Yes, I will. Yeah, Shroud of Despondency is currently my main project. My partner in crime, Spencer, joined us on drums back in, I would say, around April. We kind of made it official. And we've played about 5 shows with them so far, and they've just been getting better and better. We're currently in plans of writing and recording new music sometime within this next year. Once we get back from our show on the Upper Peninsula this weekend, we're actually going to start sitting down and really putting together some new material and
excellent
to kind of represent the lineup of the band now and you know, musically where we're going, what direction we're headed into. So we're actually all very excited about that.
So would you say this last cut is kind of where you're headed with, you know, the real heavy, complicated, but lots of blast beats, but there's some intricacies there that you don't see in a lot of metal, like heavy metal band? Yeah,
I mean, we're listed as, because the band really, the history of Shroud of Despondency is our friend, the other guitar player, Rory Hikala. I always kind of pronounce his last name a little bit wrong, but I think he's okay with that. He actually started himself many years ago when he was living in the Upper Peninsula. It always was kind of a one-man project. He did about a handful, I think almost half a dozen albums by himself with programmed drums, him writing all the riffs, laying down bass, having different vocalists on it, sometimes himself even. He moved down here, I think probably, I would say about 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. And we actually worked together for a little bit of time and got to become really good friends. Thought we had some really good things in common, so we decided to kind of get together and start doing some stuff. We had a couple bands that had some success, but all ultimately kind of failed. Usually it seemed to be because of a drummer. Nothing against anyone in the room here that plays drums, because, you know.
Did they spontaneously combust like in Spinal Tap? Wait,
one of them did. One of them just.
One of them. All of a sudden, there was a flash of green light, and he was gone.
Yeah. It's like, pow.
He died in a bizarre gardening accident.
Yes. So after that kind of didn't work out, Rory actually took the concept of the band of Shroud of Despondency and transformed it into a real live band. He got a live drummer and vocalist, and because we had been doing projects together, he asked me to come aboard and help with the live process. The album that we recorded before this one's called Dark Meditations.
In Monastic Seclusions.
In Monastic Seclusions, thank you. I was looking for the monastic part. We recorded that with the original live incarnation of the band. Since then, we have gone through another singer and drummer. We have our friend Ron doing vocals. He's also from the Upper Peninsula. He sang on some actually much older Shroud tracks, so he kind of, in essence, was already a member. And Spencer is the newest addition to the group.
Awesome. So you're going to play something different, though.
I'm going to play something different, just to kind of wrap up your question, because I'm sorry I kind of took me so
okay.
long. The direction that we're heading in is kind of, I wouldn't say uncharted territory, but we all have kind of ideas, and we all have things written that once we come together and kind of culminate them, we'll kind of see how it goes. But the thing about Shroud of Despondency is that Rory is open-minded enough to keep the universe vast for our influences and our sound.
That's great.
They started off as a very kind of, I don't want to say traditional, but kind of more just a straight-up black metal style of band. And as the live band has existed and continued to grow, we're kind of, wouldn't say that we're moving away from that genre, but we're allowing more influences to come in. So for people who are more kind of purists of that genre, might not like what we're doing, but there's bands who do bring in lots of influences, like Enslaved and bands like that, who bring in lots of good like prog influences and stuff like that. So we're kind of more for fans of that kind of black metal. And Rory always kind of jokingly kind of states that every album kind of moves away from black metal, and
Sure,
it,
sure.
it kind of is for
But
for lack of a
that's
better term.
Great for for a band to be evolving and not staying, trying to say, "Oh, this is what we sound like. We have to sound like this every time."
No, to be honest, I couldn't be more happier that I'm in this particular situation because we're all very eclectic. We have a lot of influences. So it's good to have all those kind of things open in the arsenal. So just to not leak out any secrets of what we're doing or anything like that, but we are kind of working on some things for what's going to be part of the next album, kind of involving 3-part guitar harmonies.
Ooh.
That's what we do.
So there will be, right, we copied you actually. No, I'm totally
No.
kidding. We didn't. Even if we did, we wouldn't be. But we're gonna have a special guest come aboard and help with some of that. Have some stuff kind of mapped out for it, but like I said, once we get back from our shows weekend, it's kind of like, okay, now we're in creative mode. So
So the special guest won't be revealed until it happens.
can't do it yet,
Okay.
but you do know him. You do know him.
Oh man!
What a
okay.
teaser.
I know.
Yeah, really.
I'm good at that.
For the record, you said that you're open to any influences. As long as you don't put out a disco album, I will still buy it.
Yeah, if I can guarantee 2 things on the new Shroud On will not be disco or dubstep.
Or
Okay.
country western.
And
How about not pop country western?
Yeah.
or pop country dubstep.
So what?
What?
Well, I figured, yeah, I brought some things with me. I've been kind of actively in, I would say, serious. By serious, I mean bands that actually write their own songs and try to play out and record. Since I was about 18, I brought with me the very first album I recorded with my first band. They were a grindcore band called Screaming Afterbirth.
I remember that name floating around town.
Yeah, no, it's they have since switched their name to Sexual Atrocities because certain members had left, but it's basically the same band with my best friend Jesse Kehoe at the helm on drums, kind of the creative force behind it. He's kept it alive all these years. This is an album that we recorded when we were 18 at a place called Studio One in Racine. It was run by a guy named Krista Jurek.
Okay.
And we were actually on a label. We were on United Guttural Records, which was out of Illinois, run by a guy named Sick Rich Lipscomb, who was in a band called Flesh Grind, and was kind of a good force in the underground scene, particularly the Midwest in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So this is an album that we did. This was, like I said, this was written right out of high school type of time. So like when I listen back to it, I kind of almost think, wow, where was my head at that time? Here's where it was.
All right.
So I'm going to play a track right now. It's called Epidural Missions, and we're going to try it out here in the CD, and hopefully it goes right. We'll kind of adjust a little bit if it's too loud or too quiet.
You got it.
So half expect some technical difficulties, but if not, enjoy, and we'll be back after that.
Awesome.
Who came to kill, but stayed to rape and ravage.
Ooh, glad we
right.
caught that. Thanks, Jacob.
We're listening to a band, the first band that John Litke was ever
The
in.
first real official band that I did, the one
So we're doing a little retrospective today. We got to hear the most recent band, and now we're kind of blasting to the past. And I have to say that that kind of music is fun, and I do like some of it. I always have to be sighing and going, but I'm still a girl, and the lyrics still kind of, yeah. But, you know.
And speaking from, and I completely understand that side of it. I guess my perspective was I was mainly in it for the music.
Oh, I know.
Lyrical content was always a side factor to me.
Well, it just always makes me laugh because these guys will be like, there's never any girls at these shows. Where are all the girls? And I'm like, well, let me explain something to you.
Well, your album was called Hammer Smash Face. And,
that's something we can actually say on the air, because I was about to say many of the song titles that I was perusing while we were listening, I can't say on the air.
Yeah, and I actually kind of consciously tried to find a song that I could say the full title for, because, you know,
sure.
people don't get, you know.
I still like the heavy music, and when I confront this conundrum, I just kind of decide to just go with it and say, well, you know, the focus isn't on the lyrics anyway. So
maybe you need to start a new genre of metal that's hating on men instead of hating on women.
I'll keep that in the back of my mind. That could be very interesting. So what are you going to play for us next, John?
Well, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. This is a band of mine that I had starting around 2003, and I think we eventually came to an end in 2008. So for a solid 5 years, I had this band. We were called Toby Wan, and we were if anyone out there listening recognizes the name there, that's actually a reference from the movie Reservoir Dogs.
Ah.
So go home tonight, put on Reservoir Dogs, and you'll know in the first 10 minutes exactly what we were talking about. This was a band I did with my friends Mike Young and Neil Peck. We were basically a doom kind of, for lack of a better term, the stoner rock kind of sound. My main influences at that time when I was writing this music were not necessarily bands that were contemporary in that genre. During that time, I was actually listening to a lot of older stuff. That was kind of a time where I was really exploring music of, yesterday's, like late 60s and anything I could get my hands on from the 70s and stuff. So you're pointing at me because I'm wearing a Black Sabbath shirt.
Yeah, he's wearing a Black Sabbath shirt.
Which, definitely is part of that that exploration for me. I was always a big Black Sabbath fan, and I remember sitting down and learning every album that Ozzy was ever on, and the first 2 Dio albums, every guitar riff.
I definitely did that for bass riffs.
Yeah, and, I figured, well, that will give me a good ground for starting to write that kind of music. And then I realized almost real quickly that so many bands emulate that sound that I wanted to kind of throw in different influences, because it was almost too easy to write a riff that sounded like Black Sabbath. So I was actually listening to a lot of things at the time. Like, I was really heavy on early Scorpions with Lee John Roth.
Oh, they were so good.
And the Schenker Days, their first album.
Yeah, listened to a lot of that stuff. Was really big in the prog rock. Still am. Really big in the prog rock. Was listening to a lot of early Genesis with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson stuff. So that was kind of influence I was throwing in with this band. It was kind of, at times you could almost say a jam band. We had some songs that were kind of long in length with, some kind of extended guitar solos, but it seemed to work. We had a lot of fun. We played with a lot of cool bands. We actually used to do shows with your last week's guest, Chris Ortiz, with his old band Zolotl. Got to do a lot of cool things like that, like open up for the band Trouble and MOD and a lot of cool stuff like that. So I'm going to play a track for you right now. It's called White Lightning, and this is actually the story. This is also one of those songs that has a good story behind it. Our senior bass player Mike had a little white Toyota car, and he was driving it one day, and the tie rod broke, and he slammed right into a pole right in the corner of Chasen, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
And almost died. Really messed up his spleen, and he recovered. And with things like that happen to you, you can, if you're a musician, you can take that and use it for creativity and write about it. So this is a little song called White Lightning.
All right.
I never took one pill extra. I never abused it.
The music of John Lidke on riverwestradio.com. What was the name of the band again?
The band was Toby Wan,
Uh-huh.
and the song was called White Lightning.
All right.
And as that story I mentioned a little earlier about the singer getting in a car crash being the influence for the song, at the end we had the little sample of the little race car going. And then
Oh, I didn't cut that off, did I?
no, it was actually, you were fading out like right after it was.
Oh, good,
It was
good.
It was awesome.
Okay.
It was good.
That was a cool little hook in that song. The little ascension, descension, alternating was, it's a little bit heavy. It was pretty slow tempo. It kind of the stoner rock style. you know.
Yeah, if we ever had a single, that would probably be it, because it was
catchy.
it was a
and-
good 4-minute song, had some catchy riffs,
and pretty good guitar solo too.
Oh, thank you.
I thought it was pretty good.
That was, like I said, I was listening to a lot of things like Hendrix, Robin Trower, John Roth, lots of stuff with a lot of kind of big guitar solos, big leads.
Oh yeah, the epic shredding during the solo, but outside of that, it was pretty riff oriented.
Right. It was kind of that's actually like a good culmination of the kind of music we wrote together. And, I've kind of found that over the years that, no matter how I may write, when I get with a new band or I start a new project with a different group of people, it doesn't matter how, catered I am to my own writing style, I find myself kind of moving in different ways with the people I'm collaborating with. And I could honestly say I couldn't write that kind of music with any other group, really. It would just come,
Sure.
it would sound different. There would be either more or less, or it would go in this direction, or so that was a unique thing about the band. We sounded like that together. Anything separate from that, it always kind of had a, everyone kind of sounded like their own thing, but together that was the sound we brought together. So it was fun. It was a good 5 years. I learned a lot playing live with that band, and just how to have fun being in the band as well. Learn how to laugh sometimes and not get too serious about things, which is sometimes important.
Yeah. So what else do you have for us?
Well, I see that we have a few minutes left, and just to play it safe for now, what I'm going to do is play a track by my, as of recently, unfortunately, former band called Face of Ruin. Face of Ruin was a band that some of you may know was a progressive death metal band that existed here in Milwaukee for about 7 years.
Yeah, we were big fans.
Yeah, we were big
And
fans.
so was I, so thank you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, before I was in the band, I remember actually the band I just played for you, Toby Wan, actually did shows with Face of Ruin.
Sure.
So I can actually remember being on the outside looking in, like, these guys seem like they know what's going on. They seem to be all good musicians
And
playing some.
their music was going in a really cool direction.
Yeah, and in my experience, it only got better. When I joined the band, the sound kind of took a step ahead. Whether it really was anything to do with me being in the band or not, that was kind of the direction.
I agree with you, and I can't say whether it was you or not because I wasn't in practice with you guys, but it was a turning point. You were, if nothing else, you were the impetus for it. But I'm sure your talent in writing and your talents in playing had something to do with that too. You were just a really good fit for the band.
Well, they brought out the best of me easily.
Yes.
They asked me to join the band in the summer of, let me see if I get this right, 2009. Yep. And I really was, for lack of a better word, honored.
Yeah.
But I really wasn't sure if I even had the skills to pull it off. I had to really kind of just find out for myself if I could do this.
You did.
It worked. 3 years
Turned
later,
out.
it seemed like it worked out pretty good. But it was a great band. I really just had a lot of respect for them, and I really have a lot of pride actually being part of that group, because I thought that we did things very professionally. We tried to represent the Milwaukee scene as best we could. We tried to play out with anyone that was willing to. We did shows with bands like Guzzlemug, who are more
Yes.
kind of like progressive, kind of heavy music, and then we played with, straight up death metal bands, grindcore bands, so we really tried to like get around and really try to like get out to as many people as we could. In my opinion, I never tried to promote as heavily as I did with that band. It seemed like all the elements were there to do it, though. The music was
agree
good.
more.
There was a
Yeah.
lot of professionalism going on.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was a good product to really put out there.
And between the whole group of you guys. You had a bunch of connections too, so.
And
Yeah.
you're all really nice guys.
Right. Yeah, we like
You
being able
don't
to
see that all the time.
Yeah, and I kind of, to be honest here, before I joined the band, some of the consensus I got from some people were these guys are really good. They kind of seem a little egotistical somewhat, and I kind of like to think that I kind of helped with the PR in that band because I knew a lot of people in the scene. People knew me. People knew I was a good guy. It's not like no one knew these guys either, but it kind of seemed like consciously I was trying to be like, hey, these guys are cool. I'm in the band. This is cool.
I would agree. I think that, the vibe that I got off of the group when you were in it was everybody had really just hunkered down and taken attitude towards concentrate on the music. And, you have always been very much music focused and not ego focused. And if there was anything different before you joined, you might have influenced the situation or maybe not, but at least you brought out the best, I think, in everyone.
Well,
so.
thank you very much.
And
I
you
mean,
guys always looked like you were having a good time on stage.
Oh, yeah.
we were.
A lot of metal bands don't do that. They look so angry, and it's like, well, come on,
Yeah, lighten up. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hear it. What are we going to listen to?
Okay, well, we're going to listen to, I figured I'd bring the last recording that we did, which had me on it. This was an EP that we recorded in Tampa, Florida, in a place called Smoke and Mirrors. The guy who runs the place is named Jeremy Clean. He's actually a pretty proficient drummer in his own right. He played in bands like The Absence and, I can't think what else he did, but he's around. He's been in the scene. He's given his hand, or given a shot at recording music, and he's been doing a pretty good job so far. A friend of ours recommended us to him, and we really liked what we heard, so we figured, why don't we spend spring break going down there and cut an EP, and I couldn't be more happier that we did because, as I mentioned before, now we're no longer a unit, but this was something that really needed to be done at the time. And this, I thought this EP right here represented the band as best as what it really was.
I think it does. Yeah.
This lineup was the lineup that existed until the end. This is the best sounding recording. It's the best tunes as well. So I'm going to play. Let's see, which one should I play? I think I'm going to play Within the Infinite.
Oh, yeah.
I always like that song.
We have played that one on the show. We love it. All right, Within the Infinite, Face of Ruin. On riverwestradio.com. We're listening to Face of Ruin here on riverwestradio.com, and we're going to listen to one more piece by John Lidke. This is a completely different genre. You also play blues, which is a completely different genre, but we don't have anything that's not a cover, so we'll listen to the Noise Band.
Actually, playing at Toby Wan was actually kind of a nice little hint at my bluesier side because, like I said, you know, I was kind of really listening to a lot of like hard-hitting blues guys at that time. So
what's the story behind this piece you're going to play now?
Okay, well, actually, hey, we're done with that now. Hey, we're done with that. We're not playing Face of Ruin anymore.
My fault. I should have turned it off.
No, that's my fault. I should have pressed stop. We'll take equal blame.
All right.
What some people may not know about me is I definitely have an experimental side, and it's always kind of existed through all the times I've been in bands. When I was, like I said, I was 18, I did that band Screaming Afterbirth, and really not too long after that, I had met a person who I worked with by the name of Eric Schawitzer. He does a noise band with his brother Mike called Mildew, and he has a band of his own called Drugs Dragons. Kind of good garage rock stuff. So he actually turned me on to a lot of experimental things, kind of really turned me on to the genre of noise. Everything and anything of it. Kind of opened my brain to that style. I wasn't really even aware that there was a genre called noise.
Right.
So I definitely have him and his brother to thank for that. I have collaborated with their group Mildew on and off for like the last 10 years, played some shows with them a little more recently, but that kind of planted the seeds for me to do my own thing. And
so how did you get inspired to do the thing that we're going to hear?
Well, about 10 years ago, to wrap this up because I know we're getting a little close on time, I used to live on Webster, right off of Bartlett, if anyone knows where that is, kind of near UWM area. And I was taking the alley home one day, and I saw one of those old TVs, those ones that look like a piece of furniture that weigh like 1,000 pounds and, you know, are great things to, like, you know, put your thing. It's almost like it doubles as like a mantle or a shelf.
Sure, right.
So it had a sign on it, very simply stating, "Take me, I work." So I figured it was right around the corner from my house. Why not give it a shot? A helpful friend of mine helped me drag it in the house, plugged it in, seemed to work. Great. Used it for about a year or two, and then I actually even moved it with me all the way to Bayview because I liked it that much. One day I turned it on, and one of the tubes blew, and it started creating a very random kind of staticky noise. And that creative, experimental part of my brain went, ooh, this might be good for, a recording. So I basically laid down 2 tracks of I laid for kind of like a bass. Groundwork was this TV making these random static sounds. And then after that, I layered some keyboards. I actually had a crude theremin at the time that looked like a big overshaped pantyhose shell case.
Oh, wow.
Used that, and I took some random, very, very random samplings from TV. And I entitled it TV Sessions. And I'm going to play a little bit off this to kind of showcase my more experimental side and to kind of close out this show.
All right. So you've been listening to Compose Yourself with Julie Brandenburg, and thanks so much, John Lidke, for coming into the studio tonight.
Thank you very much for having me on, by the way,
and we're going to go out with the TV. What is it called again?
TV Sessions.
TV
This
Sessions.
is not a test.
This is not. This is only a test.
Sorry.
By John Lidke.
The next one will be called "This Is Not a Test."
Thank you.
Sequel.
Wow.